I wanted to go over the Canvas assignment that you should have turned in last week because I think it's really important that you understand how to determine your grade in your class and, to understand how it works. So I made up these scenarios where I think it gives you a good ability to practice applying the table and the flow chart, and then also thinking about what the final, how that affects your grade. And so I'm going over these so that you can watch it and understand it if you were a little bit confused before. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is using the information given about her a student's particular number of LOs that they have P's in, lab average scores on different assignments. We want to use this table here that you see on this page and kind of see where she stands with that. And we're going to use that information to apply it to the flow chart. That will allow us to determine Jasmine's grade going into the final. And once we know that, we can look at the other table that talks about the final grades. So basically, our two key questions that we're trying to answer with this assignment is, what is the grade of the student going into the final, given all the information we have? And then also, can they earn an A in the class? And if not, what would be the highest grade that could be earned? Okay, so let's start with LOs. So Jasmine has 12 LOs for the semester. This is where there can be confusion because you see 12. We're looking at this top row here. 12 goes between B and C. That doesn't mean she gets a C+. It means she's at the C level. She hasn't gotten the minimum of 13 required to be at the B level, so that's a really important thing to understand. Next, we go into the lab average, which is an 86. And 86 actually gets her at the A level for lab. She hasn't missed any as well. When we go into perusal, she's completed 82% of the perusal assignments. And it's important also that you remember that perusal and Canvas-based assignments are based on the percentage that you've completed. It's not really a grade. So she's at 82% for the perusal and the Canvas-based, again, which puts her at the C level for those. And then finally, we look at WebAssign. Her anchoring concepts average is an 87, and the preparing for assessments is 88. So we have a lot of scatter here. We have some categories where Jasmine is in the A level, but we also have categories where she's at the C level. So let's see how this kind of pans out when we use the flow chart. The flow chart is really designed so that it really places a big importance on the LOs, which is the biggest thing about the class that we're interested in. So Jasmine starts at the C level because of her LO score. And then we sort of follow the flow chart. Is your grade for every other category an A? Well, that wasn't true because Jasmine had some C level and some A level. So we would follow the no, that's the red. And then we go to the next piece of the flow chart, which is this one right here. Is your lowest grade for any other category a B with your highest grade an A? Well, that wasn't true either. So we go down to this one. And then finally, is your grade for every other category a C or above? That's true for Jasmine. So this is where she's going to end up. So going into the final, she has a C. So let's see what the best she can do for the, what the best grade she could turn out to earn based on performance on the final. So we go to this thing. And so the way that this works is you first identify where were you based on the flow chart, and then these numbers next to that represent the possible grades you could earn based on your score on the final. The final is 10 questions. So the best you can do is a 10 out of 10. And we see that if Jasmine has a really strong final and gets 10 out of 10, that will put her at a B+. So her B+ is the highest grade she can earn. And that's if she gets a 10 out of 10 on the final. All right, let's go to the next one. So now we have a different scenario. So Idris has done pretty well on the LOs. So he has 16 out of 17 of the LOs, and so that's where he is starting. His lab average is 90%, and so that is puts him at the A level for lab. He completed 86% of the perusal assignments and 87% of the Canvas-based assignments. That actually puts him at the B level for those, because the hallmark is for 90% completion for the A. And then his WebAssign average for anchoring concepts and preparing is 80. So this is a little bit different than our previous case. So Idris has 2 categories at the A level, but then everything else is B. And so let's see what the flowchart tells us about what he is, where he stands going into the final. So his assessment grade was at the A level, so we're going to start there. And then the question is your grade for every other category also an A? And that answer was no. There were quite a few categories that were at the B. So we go down to this, and then it says, is your grade for every other category a B or above? And that actually was true. So what we see is Idris has an A- going into the final. So let's look at our final flow table to see what he could do, where he could end up for his final grade. So here we see we start at the A-, and we actually see that in order to get an A, and that would be right here, he would need a 9 out of 10 on the final. So it is possible for him to earn an A. The fact that he was a little lower in those other things didn't hurt too much. Although if you look, if he had been A all across the board, he wouldn't have needed as high of a score to keep his A. So he has to work a little bit harder because he fell behind on perusal and Canvas and also the WebAssign. And then we're going to look at our final case, and hopefully you're getting the hang of it now. Okay, Luca is looking at his grades at the end of the semester. Luca had a hard time, and he has 6 LO proficiencies, and that's going to put him at the F range for his proficiencies. He has an 85 in lab, so that's at the A level, has done 90% of the perusals and 85% of the Canvas-based assignments. He has, for his anchoring concepts, he's at 85%. Preparing for assessments is 80%. And there you see I didn't do a very good job of editing this. So we want to know where Luca is going into the final. And I think this is a really important thing to understand, because you might be having a harder time with the proficiencies, but everything else you're doing well. And so what does that exactly mean? You know, it's not really just a strict average. We have to use the flow chart to see where this positions you. And this might be something that you want to think about as the semester's drawing to a close. So here, for this flow chart, we start at the F level, and unfortunately, the flow chart tells us that if you have an F at going into the final, then you can't really, You're not going to get any extra credit for doing the other things. This is really going to reflect the importance of the LOs. You know, you have to, it's not just part of the things that you have to to do everything. And so Luca is going into the final with an F. So let's look at the final exam table and see if Luca can pass the class. That's really probably what we're going to be thinking about. So we're down here at the F, and we can see that, you know, you can pass. And in fact, so Luca would need 6 out of 10 on the final to pass with a D minus. And actually, if he got a 10 out of 10, he could pull his grade up to a C. Not likely, but, you know, it's possible. But you can see here that the final performance is going to be very much a key to whether or not the class can be passed. It might not be a good thing to count on that you're going to get at least 6 right, but it is possible to pass at that point. So hopefully this helped you understand how we use all these fancy tables and flowcharts to determine grades. And I would encourage you to, you know, take a look at this with respect to your own scores to see where you stand right now.